The war drums of the Yarick echoed through the command deck of the Bloodfawn, their rhythmic thunder matching the pulse of General Barrock's 3 hearts. He stood before the viewport, all 4 arms crossed behind his back, his crystalline eyes fixed on the emerald death trap rotating slowly in the void before them. Azkara, the jungle planet, the Omega-class death world that had claimed every expedition, every scout ship, every foolhardy explorer who had dared set foot upon its verdant surface. In the 3 centuries since its discovery, not a single species in the Galactic Alliance had survived more than 7 rotations on its surface. The lucky ones died quickly. The others, their final transmissions still haunted the archives. General, Talik's voice broke through his contemplation. His second-in-command approached with the measured steps of a veteran warrior, his scarred carapace reflecting the ship's running lights. The shuttle is prepared. But I must ask again, is this necessary? Barrock turned, his massive frame casting a shadow over the smaller officer. Necessary? Nothing about glory is necessary, old friend. That is what makes it glorious. The Council has forbidden. The Council, Barrock interrupted, his voice a low rumble, sits in comfort on the core worlds, growing fat on the victories won by warriors like us. They have forgotten what it means to push boundaries, to claim the unclaimed. He gestured toward the planet with his upper right arm. 17 species have tried. 17 have failed. But none were Yarick. Talik's antennae twitched, a sign of deep concern among their people. The automated probes show readings that defy logic. Atmospheric composition shifts without warning. Electromagnetic anomalies that shouldn't exist. Life signs that disappear and reappear at random. All the more reason to succeed where others have failed. Barrock activated his command gauntlet, pulling up the holographic roster of volunteers. 20 of the finest warriors the Yarick had ever produced, each one worth 100 soldiers of lesser species. Scientists, too, experts in xenobiology, survivalists who had tamed the harshest environments in known space. These are not conscripts, Talik. Every soul on this mission chose to be here. They chose glory. The drums ceased. In the sudden silence, the weight of what they were about to attempt settled over the bridge like a funeral shroud. Mark my words, Barrock continued, his voice carrying the certainty of absolute conviction. We will set foot on that cursed ground. We will survive where others have perished. And when we return, the Yarick will no longer be merely one voice among many in the Alliance. We will be the voice that speaks of conquering the unconquerable. 3 hours later, Barrock stood in the shuttle's deployment bay, his armor sealed and weapon systems powered. The volunteers stood in perfect formation, warriors in their powered exoskeletons, scientists clutching their instruments like talismans against the unknown. The air recyclers hissed, maintaining the nitrogen-rich atmosphere their species required. Final checks, he commanded. Atmospheric processors. Optimal, General, reported Vex High, the lead scientist. Her 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a nervous habit. Though I must caution that our data on surface conditions is inconsistent. Weapons. Charged and ready, growled Cormac, the weapons specialist. His plasma cannon hummed with barely contained energy. Whatever's down there, we'll burn it to ash. Barrock nodded, satisfaction evident in the set of his mandibles. Remember, we are not here to study. We are here to survive, to endure, to prove that the Yarick bow to no world, no matter how hostile. He paused, letting his gaze sweep across the assembled team. 7 rotations. That's the record. We will double it. The shuttle lurched as it detached from the Bloodfawn. Through the viewports, Azkara grew larger, its atmosphere a swirling mass of greens and blues that seemed almost to writhe with malevolent intent. Entering upper atmosphere, the pilot announced. Turbulence increasing. Electromagnetic interference is. General, our instruments are going haywire. Push through, Barrock ordered. The shuttle bucked and rolled, systems flickering as unknown forces played havoc with their technology. Warning alarms blared, only to cut off abruptly as power surged and failed and surged again. Then, as suddenly as it began, the turbulence ceased. They broke through the cloud layer to reveal a landscape that defied comprehension. Towering trees that scraped the sky, their trunks the width of starships. Vines that moved without wind, reaching toward the descending shuttle like hungry tentacles. Rivers that glowed with bioluminescent microorganisms, casting eerie light through the perpetual twilight of the canopy. Landing zone identified. The pilot reported, voice tight with concentration. 3 clicks north of the previous expedition's last known position. Barrock felt his hearts quicken, not with fear, but with anticipation. Take us down. The shuttle touched down in a clearing that seemed almost too perfect, too convenient, as if the jungle itself had prepared a landing pad for them. The thought sent a chill down Barrock's spine, but he pushed it aside. Paranoia was the enemy of glory. Helmets sealed, he ordered. Weapons hot. Scientists, stay in the center of the formation. Move. The ramp lowered with a hydraulic hiss, revealing air so thick with humidity it looked like a solid wall. The temperature gauge on Barrock's HUD immediately spiked into the red zone. He stepped forward, his boots sinking slightly into soil that seemed to pulse with its own heartbeat. For a moment, nothing happened. The jungle was silent, watchful. Then, as if a switch had been thrown, it erupted in a cacophony of alien sounds, screams and whistles and roars that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Defensive positions. Barrock barked. His warriors responded instantly, forming a protective circle around the scientists. Vex-High readings? The scientist was already scanning, her instruments sweeping the area. Life signs everywhere, general, but they're flickering, as if reality itself is unstable here. General, the shout came from Cormac, who was aiming his cannon at something in the underbrush. Movement 30 degrees left. Barrock turned, his own weapon tracking the disturbance. For a moment, he saw nothing. Then the foliage parted, and his breath caught in his throat. It was beautiful and terrible at once. A creature that seemed made of living crystal, its form shifting and flowing like water. Eyes that weren't eyes regarded them with alien intelligence. Then it opened what might have been a mouth, revealing rows of teeth that sparked with electrical discharge. Open fire. Plasma bolts and kinetic rounds tore through the air, striking the creature dead center. It shuddered, its crystalline form cracking, and then reforming, the damage healing in seconds. Fall back to the shuttle. Barrock ordered, but even as the words left his mouth, he heard the scream. One of his warriors, Teshka, a veteran of dozen campaigns, was on the ground, his armor cracked open like an egg. Something had emerged from the soil beneath him, something with too many teeth and a hide that sensors couldn't penetrate. Teshka's screams cut off abruptly as the thing pulled him underground, leaving only a spreading pool of dark blood. Move! Move! Back to the shuttle exploded. The shockwave knocked half the team off their feet. Barrock watched in horror as their only means of escape was reduced to twisted metal and flame. Through the smoke, he saw them, more creatures different from the first. These were shadows given form, sliding between the trees with impossible grace. Circle formation, he roared. Concentrate fire. We make our stand here. But even as his warriors obeyed, Barrock knew the truth. They were not hunters here. They were prey. The hours that followed were a blur of violence and terror. The jungle seemed to have 1,000 ways to kill, each more horrific than the last. Plants that released spores which ate through their filters. Invisible predators that struck from above, leaving only empty armor behind. The very air seemed to thicken around them, making each breath a struggle. When darkness fell, if it could truly be called darkness in a place where bioluminescent horrors provided their own hellish illumination, only half their number remained. They had managed to establish a defensive position atop a rocky outcropping, but Barrock knew it was only a matter of time. General, Vex-High whispered, her voice barely audible over the constant rustling of the jungle. 2 of her eyes were gone, taken by a creature that looked like a flower until it struck. The energy readings, they're not random. There's a pattern. The planet. It's not just alive. It's intelligent. Barrock stared at her, trying to process the implications. You're saying the planet itself is trying to kill us. Not trying, she corrected, a bitter laugh escaping her damaged vocal cords. Succeeding. It's been playing with us. Testing our defenses. Learning. A roar split the night, so loud it seemed to shake the very ground. Through the twisted trees came something that made their previous encounters seem like child's play. It stood 3 times Barrock's height, its body a constantly shifting mass of stone and vegetation and things that shouldn't exist in the same space. Reality seemed to bend around it. Ancestors preserve us, someone whispered. Barrock raised his weapon, knowing it was futile. They had no ammunition left that could even scratch such a monstrosity. But he would die as a Yerick warrior, facing his enemy, weapon in hand. The creature paused, its featureless head tilting as if considering them. Then, it raised what might have been an arm, energy crackling between appendages that defied counting. This was the end. Barrock knew it. He thought of the blood fong, waiting faithfully in orbit. Of Talek, who had been right to question this fool's errand. Of the glory that would die with them on this accursed world. Then he heard something impossible. Laughter. Not the chittering of aliens or the mechanical sounds of their own kind, but genuine, hearty laughter. The kind that spoke of joy and camaraderie. And beneath it, something even more impossible, the smell of cooking meat. The creature stopped its advance, its head swiveling toward the source of the sounds. Without warning, it simply faded, dissolved into the jungle as if it had never existed at all. Barrock stared in the direction the sounds had come from, his mind struggling to process what was happening. Vexi are your sensors. Picking up life signs, she confirmed, her voice filled with disbelief. 7. No, that can't be right. The readings say, humans. The soft, pink creatures from the garden world called Earth. Barrock had seen them in the Alliance councils. Bipedal, fragile-looking things barely 2 meters tall, with no natural armor, no redundant organs, no biological weapons. They were considered clever, certainly, but physically inferior to almost every other spacefaring species. Follow me, Barrock ordered, his curiosity overcoming his caution. Weapons ready, but do not fire unless I give the order. They crept through the jungle, following the sounds and smells that grew stronger with each step. The constant pressure of watching eyes seemed to lessen, as if even the planet's attention had been drawn elsewhere. They emerged into a clearing that defied everything Barrock thought he knew about Asgarah. In the center, around a cheerful fire that somehow kept the jungle's horrors at bay, sat 7 humans. They wore simple clothing, shorts and sleeveless shirts that left most of their vulnerable skin exposed. Around them were scattered items that looked absurdly primitive. Fabric tents, metal cooking implements, and what appeared to be recreational equipment. One of the humans, a male with dark skin and graying hair, looked up from the creature he was turning on a spit over the fire. The same type of creature that had killed 3 of Barrock's warriors just hours before. "Oh, hey there," the human called out, waving cheerfully with a utensil that dripped with juices. "You folks look like you've had a rough day. Want some dinner? We've got plenty." Barrock stood frozen, his mind unable to reconcile the scene before him. These humans were not cowering in terror. They were not fighting for their lives. They were camping. What? Barrock's translator struggled with his stuttering speech. "How are you? Why aren't you?" A human female with bright red hair laughed, the sound clear and genuine. "Oh, you're probably wondering about the wildlife, right? Yeah, they're pretty intense at first. Gets the blood pumping. That's why we come here, actually. Earth's camping spots are so tame these days." "Tame?" Barrock's voice cracked. "This is a death world, an Omega-class prohibited zone. Nothing survives here." The first human shrugged, expertly carving off a piece of meat and offering it on the end of his knife. "You just need to know what to pack. Bug spray for the little nasties, proper perimeter sensors for the big ones, and always bring extra seasoning. These local critters are great protein, but they're bland as hell without proper spices." Barak accepted the meat automatically, his mind still reeling. Around him, his surviving warriors and scientists stared with the same expression of stunned disbelief. But the creatures, Vexai managed, her scientific mind grasping for understanding. They heal from weapons fire. They appear from nowhere. Oh, those stone things. Another human, younger with skin covered in colorful markings, waved dismissively. Yeah, they're territorial as hell. But they hate citrus. We spray the campsite perimeter with lemon juice concentrate. Keeps them out better than a force field. And the shadow creatures. Nocturnal hunters. They track by sound, so we set up white noise generators just outside camp. They get confused and wander off. The plants that release deadly spores. Just wear an N95 mask and you're fine. We brought extras if you need some. Barak sank to the ground, his legs no longer able to support him. Everything he thought he knew, every assumption about strength and survival and the nature of the universe itself, crumbled around him. Ow, he whispered. How are you doing this? The first human, who introduced himself as Marcus, sat down beside him, offering a container of what smelled like alcohol. Honestly, we just treated it like any other camping trip. Assess the risks, pack accordingly, and don't panic when things get weird. Humans have been dealing with hostile environments since we climbed down from the trees. This place, he gestured around the clearing. It's like Australia on steroids. Dangerous, sure, but manageable if you know what you're doing. We've lost half our expedition, Barak said numbly. Warriors who conquered worlds. Scientists who tamed stars. And you're here for? Recreation. Adventure tourism. The red-haired woman corrected cheerfully. It's all the rage back home. Ever since we figured out FTL travel, regular camping just doesn't cut it anymore. So we started looking for places with a bit more excitement. There's a waiting list, actually, Marcus added. Ascara Tours is booked solid for the next 3 years. We had to pull some strings to get this slot. Barak stared at the meat in his hand, the flesh of a creature that had seemed invincible hours ago, now reduced to dinner. How long have you been here? This trip? About 2 weeks. We're heading home tomorrow. Actually, gotta get back to work. 2 weeks. These fragile, unarmored humans had survived 2 weeks on a world that had killed hardened Yerrick warriors in hours. The record, Barak said slowly, is 7 rotations. You've doubled it. Record? Marcus looked confused, then understanding dawned. Oh, you mean for non-humans? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. No offense, but you guys always overthink things. Come in with massive ships, heavy weapons, advanced tech. The planet sees you as a threat and responds accordingly. But we, the woman added, we're just 7 apes with camping gear. The planet barely notices us. And when it does, well, she patted a small device on her belt. Bear spray works on most things, turns out. Barak looked around at his survivors. Warriors reduced to shadows of themselves. Scientists whose instruments had failed them, all brought low by a world the humans treated as a vacation destination. Could you? He swallowed his pride, the words physically painful to speak. Could you help us? Get us out of here safely. Of course. Marcus clapped him on the shoulder with casual familiarity that would have been unthinkable days ago. We got spare gear, and our shuttle has room. Where's your ship? Orbit. The Bloodfong waits for us. Cool name. Very dramatic. We'll get you sorted out. But first, eat. You look like you need it. For the next few hours, Barak and his survivors sat among the humans, listening with growing amazement as they casually discussed the tricks to surviving Ascara. Simple things, almost insultingly basic. Citrus repellent. Sound dampeners. Proper food storage to avoid attracting scavengers. The kind of knowledge that children on Earth learned at summer camp. When dawn broke, if the subtle lightning of the eternal gloom could be called dawn, the humans efficiently broke camp. They moved with practiced ease, each person knowing their role. Barak noticed they treated the jungle with respect, but not fear, acknowledging its dangers without being paralyzed by them. The human shuttle was a battered, unimpressive thing compared to Yerrick technology. But it lifted off without incident the jungle that had seemed so eager to devour them, simply letting them go. As they broke atmosphere, Barrock sat in silence, his mind replaying everything he had witnessed. Beside him, Marcus was filling out what looked like a customer feedback form for the tour company. Would you recommend Askarot tours to others? Marcus read aloud, chuckling. 10 out of 10, absolutely. Though they might want to add a warning about the stone creatures. Those guys are way bigger than the brochure suggested. The Bloodfang loomed ahead, its sleek, hollow reminder of the technological superiority Barrock had always taken for granted. But now it seemed hollow, meaningless in the face of what he had learned. As they docked, Barrock turned to Marcus one last time. Why, he asked. Why do this? Why seek out danger when you could live in safety? Marcus thought for a moment, then smiled. Because that's what humans do. We climb mountains because they're there. We dive to ocean floors because we've never seen them. We go to places like Askarot because everyone says we can't. It's not about proving we're strong. It's about finding out what we're capable of. Barrock nodded slowly. And what are you capable of? Apparently, Marcus grinned. Anything we put our minds to. The universe is full of wonders, General. Some are beautiful, some are terrifying, but they're all worth experiencing. The airlock cycled open, revealing Talek and a crowd of concerned crew members. Barrock stepped through, his surviving team behind him. He saw the questions in their eyes, the desperate need to understand what had happened. General, Talek's voice was carefully neutral. Your report. Barrock looked back at the human shuttle, watching as it departed with the same casual ease it had shown on the Death Worlds. Surface. He thought of his words aboard the Bloodfang, his proud declarations about glory and conquest. We failed, he said simply. The admission should have been crushing, but somehow it felt liberating. Askarot defeated us. But we survived thanks to... He paused, searching for the right words. Thanks to a species we never understood. Perhaps never can understand. The humans. The humans. Barrock straightened, meeting the eyes of his crew. Call the council. Tell them to lift the prohibition on Askarot. It's not a death world. It's a camping ground. For humans. As he walked toward the bridge, leaving behind a wake of stunned silence, Barrock found himself thinking of Marcus's words. The universe was full of wonders. And perhaps the greatest wonder of all was a species that looked at the impossible and saw only an invitation to try. The Yarrick had sought to conquer Askarot through strength. The humans had survived it through adaptation, preparation, and an inexplicable ability to find joy in the face of terror. It was a lesson Barrock would never forget. Later, as he stood before the Galactic Council, delivering his report to an audience of incredulous alien dignitaries, Barrock chose his words carefully. The humans are not weak, he concluded, his voice carrying across the vast chamber. They're not strong in any way we understand. There's something else entirely. Something that treats death worlds as playgrounds and monsters as mild inconveniences. They are adaptable in ways that defy logic, casual about dangers that paralyze others, and possessed of a curiosity that borders on madness. He paused, letting his words sink in. We have spent centuries classifying species by their strength, their technology, their military might. But humans don't fit our classifications. They survive not by overwhelming force, but by understanding. Not by eliminating threats, but by adapting to them. They are, in a word, unstoppable. Not because they cannot be killed. They are as fragile as they appear. But because they refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible. The council murmured, a sound like wind through 1,000 different throats. Barrock knew they didn't fully understand. How could they? He had been there, had seen it with his own eyes, and still struggled to believe it. In your recommendation, General Barrock? Barrock thought of 7 humans sitting around a campfire, roasting the flesh of nightmares while discussing their vacation plans. He thought of their laughter echoing through a jungle that had consumed the greatest warriors of 17 species. My recommendation, he said slowly, is that we stop trying to understand them. Some things in this universe are beyond our comprehension. The humans are one of them. And perhaps that's for the best. As he stepped down from the podium, Barrock caught sight of a human delegation in the viewing gallery. One of them, he thought it might have been the one called Marcus, raised a hand in a casual wave. Barak, veteran of 100 campaigns, commander of fleets, survivor of Azkara, found himself waving back. Some lessons, he realized, were worth more than glory. In the weeks that followed, Azkara was officially reclassified from an Omega-class death world to a restricted recreation zone. Humans only. The first commercial tours sold out within hours. Videos of humans paragliding through the carnivorous canopy and hosting barbecues with tamed shadow beasts became viral sensations across the galactic net. Barak retired from active service shortly after, taking a position as a military academy instructor. His most popular lecture, delivered to wide-eyed cadets from a dozen different species, was titled The Azkara Paradox, When Strength Becomes Weakness. He would begin each lecture the same way. Let me tell you about the time I learned that the most dangerous species in the galaxy packs bug spray for death worlds and treats cosmic horrors as tourist attractions. The cadets never believed him at first. By the end, as he showed them footage from the human tours, families with children feeding the crystal beasts, elderly couples hiking through paths that had claimed armored warriors, they understood. Somewhere in the galaxy, on a world where reality bent and nightmares walked, humans were teaching their offspring how to make esmores over fires fueled by the bones of impossibilities. And Barak, who had sought glory in conquest, had found wisdom in humility. The universe, he had learned, had a sense of humor. And perhaps that was the most human trait of all.